Hello, welcome to another episode of Rotting in the Bed podcast. This is episode number 2, and today I wanted to talk about mental health while in college. So, I went to college from 2016 to 2020. I went to the University of Central Florida, and during that time, my mental health was not good. Like, I was in denial about it, I didn't realize it. But one of the traps I fell into in college was toxic positivity, because, like, I thought that everything around me was such a blessing and it was so awesome just to have the opportunity I had to just be in college that nothing should make me upset. And so every time I was upset with something or feeling negative, I would try to combat it with positivity. And as we know now, due to like TikTok and the internet, toxic positivity, making yourself try to feel good when you don't feel good, does not help you at all. It just makes you feel worse in the long run. And it's really not good for your mental because, like, you're telling yourself that your feelings are invalid and that you can't, basically, it's taking away your full range of motion as a human being. And we also see that in the movie Inside Out, where Joy tries to be joyful all the time, and it doesn't work out either because there's so many more emotions that we have to feel and experience. And you can't just take away sadness and anger and negativity. Like, we have those emotions for a reason. They're there to direct us, protect us, put us in the right direction. In my previous video, I touched on a little bit about how my mental health issues started in middle school with obsessive thinking, and then really launched into its. I'm trying to make a joke. Like, launched, like, whenever people launch, like, a makeup palette or a clothing apparel brand. I'm trying to make a joke, but it's not working. And when I was 16, it was surrounding having to graduate in 2 years and having to have a job now at the age of 16, and performance anxiety about those things. But once I got into college, I had this overarching fear this whole time about failure. I was so afraid that I would go to college, grind, and then come out of college and have no job and no job prospects. Like, that was my biggest fear, because especially because I was one of those majors. I was an anthropology major. Anthropology majors either become anthropology majors because they don't know what they want to do, or they like learning about other cultures and they also don't know what they want to do for a job one day besides work in a museum. I was that person. I just thought, oh, I'll work in a museum. I love learning about history, culture, people. I think I was looking for a way to heal from my conservative hometown by branching out and delving deep into other cultures and learning those histories. I think it was a coping mechanism for me, just the same way that I think some psychology students, some of y'all, only do psychology because you're really trying to cope with your own mental illness. Like, it's okay. We all do it. We all do things without realizing we do them. Since I wasn't a STEM major, I didn't have like a set out track in front of me where I knew take this class, take that class, do this internship, get this job. Like, it wasn't like that. Whenever you're more of a liberal arts major or a humanities major, it's very build your own. And at the time, my teachers were trying to convince me, like, Asia, it's going to be okay. Like, I got this major and I ended up doing this and I've done that. Like, it really doesn't matter what major you are, you will end up in a job one day. Like, people diverge often far from what they were doing at the beginning. And in the end, I know they're correct even now, like at 25, still not having it fully figured out career wise. I know they're correct, but like, I had such a hard time having peace with that. And basically, that was my problem in college. I had no peace of mind. Now, even though I didn't have peace of mind, I still was having fun. I still was making friends. I still was going out and doing events. Like, I had a good time in college, but it was like this parallel life where on one hand, I'm having a great time. But on the other hand, every night when I come home, I have to ritually eat through my box of Cheez Its, then spend 2 hours on TikTok to decompress, and then try to go to sleep and have terrible sleep at night. Not go to bed until like 1 a.m. And then when I try to go to bed, sleep terribly, and then wake up and repeat. Like, that on my body, that whole not sleeping in college thing, it is not good for you. It is so, like, for me, I have the time period before I slept at 10 and before and after I slept at 10. The way I had so much fatigue, and I learned that when I'm fatigued and tired, I'm angry. I get angry and irritable, and I'm not my best self. Just the same way when you get hungry, you get angry. I was hangry. I was tangry. I was tired angry. And I don't know why people romanticize the whole pulling all nighters. Like kids thought they were cool for that. Like, oh my god, I didn't sleep all night. I went to bed at like 5 a.m. Oh my god. No, it's not cool. Don't try to be cool like that because it's not. Once I started going to bed at 10 p.m., my mental health already went up like 2 notches. And like, that's a lot because my mental health was in the gutter. It was chaos to the point, like, one thing was toxic positivity, another thing was not going to bed at a decent time. And then the third thing was just putting this pressure on myself to be successful once I got out of college and being unsure the whole time while I was in college. That was just me brooding with anxiety and inner turmoil for like 4 years straight. And like, who is that helping? That wasn't helping me, it was only hurting me. I did seek out mentors, I sought out my teacher's help, I sought out wisdom from other people. But because I didn't come from a family or like a social group of people who came from college and knew this walk and knew about things like economy and the job market, like I didn't come from a family or from a social group that was knowledgeable about those things, and so I had no idea what to expect. Everything was just my parents' hopes and dreams for me. Like I felt the burden of my family on my shoulders and that I had to be successful. Now I do have three other siblings, but I always felt like out of the four of us, I was the one who had to make the difference. Like I was the one who had to pave the way. I just felt extra pressure because I was like the child growing up who tried the hardest. And so I applied that to college too. And college is partially difficult too because like you're never the best again. Like once you're in college, you're never the best again. And it's kind of like a little disappointing, at least as someone who grew up constantly getting praised for being. Oh, my camera's gonna die. I gotta stop this right here. Bye. My camera died and I just got done charging. This is like totally the next day. I'm wearing like a different outfit. Like everything's different. But I left off saying that it sucks. Oh, let me put the mic a little further from my mouth because I notice when I'm talking I have it way too close, and it creates this like really bad feedback sound. Like it just sounds like I'm in your ear. Um, but yeah, I would say that going to college kind of took me off my high horse, and I was not no longer able to feel kind of like, oh, I'm at the top of my game or I'm better than everyone at this thing. It takes away that high horse feeling, that pedestal that you're on. So that kind of sucks. But besides that, I also wanted to talk about perfectionism. Because perfectionism in college it mainly attacked me through my internships, in that I was always so afraid to send an email because I needed to have the perfect email. Like it couldn't have one grammatical error, it couldn't have one mistyped letter, it couldn't be worded improperly, couldn't use the wrong vocabulary. I was so anal about my email that I would ruminate on it for like 30 minutes straight, erasing and rewriting and deleting and rewriting the same email. And I noticed this in my and then like the other day I was talking to my therapist about this, and we kind of pointed out that that was an OCD thing, that I was ruminating so hard on an email for 30 minutes straight. But at the time I thought I was just being very attentive and like very alert to the fact that like I cannot make any mistakes. And that was my problem. I thought as a perfectionist I could not make mistakes in the workplace, whether it was an internship or a legitimate job. And I've been trying to come down off that energy since like 2018. Like I've been working on that with each new job I get to not be perfectionist like that anymore. Surprisingly, I wasn't a perfectionist when it came to my homework assignments or anything like that. I think part of that is because being a humanities major, there isn't much stress in the assignments department. I will say that watching STEM majors go through what they go through, I don't know how they did it, because the way their mental health looked completely fucked up. Like that's the whole reason why I decided not to do any type of STEM major in college, is because I was too scared of the place that my mental health would go to trying to achieve in that competitive, weed out, toxic culture of STEM majors. Especially like it's really bad. If you were a STEM major, you know what I'm talking about. I always had close friends who are STEM majors. I always had close friends who were STEM majors, and so I got to kind of experience that through them, and it was horrible. Like I don't think anyone should go through that. Like the amount of not knowing what your grades are going to be until like the end of the semester, so you're panicked the whole time. The amount of teachers who are just cruel, STEM teachers are just mean, and they do not want to help you, will not make time for you. and they want to weed you out of their classes. Like, they want to get it from being 100 down to like 20 people or whatever the number is. So college is not a place where you're necessarily going to thrive emotionally and mentally. The best way you can help yourself, honestly, is by getting the free therapy that usually is offered on campus. Most colleges have an office called CAPS, which stands for Counseling and Psychological Services. And that's where you can go to get a counselor for free. Well, technically you're paying for it through like your tuition. So take advantage of it. If you're already going to be paying through it if you're already paying thousands of dollars towards it in your tuition, you might as well as go. And I know there's some stigma around going to counseling, and it's very scary and uncomfortable to go to the first time. I'm not going to lie. But once you get past that, you will set the tone for the rest of your life of being able to go to counseling and get therapy, and it will only make your life better. So for me, I sought out therapy when I was in my freshman year of college, mainly because my mom told me to and she was kind of forcing me to. I did it one time that year and then didn't go back for a year straight because I had an uncomfortable encounter. It wasn't that like deep or anything. I just felt uncomfortable. But about a year later, I felt desperate and I felt like I was getting the, ooh, I want to drop out of schoolsies. Everyone gets that at some point, I think, in college. And so I was like, well, let me go to this therapy thing to try to mitigate this wanting to drop out. I was starting to feel so drained and just like I couldn't do it anymore. For the longest time, I saw my first therapist as good, and then I saw her as bad, and now I'm not sure what I see her as because her and I were both at our own places in life whenever I started getting therapy from her. And so some of the things I think she should have been able to make clear for me, maybe I wasn't actually ready for it yet. And maybe she saw that, maybe she didn't, and she really was just not very knowledgeable. But in the end, I think what was supposed to happen was supposed to happen. I had to go through having just okay therapy and then burning out still and coming to terms with like my own mind and mental tricks that were going on in my head. It was terrible, but I think it needed to happen the way it happened. But yeah, I would say the only thing that sucks about therapists in school is that they're pretty packed with students. And so they technically want to get you in and out in like, how many weeks is it? Basically, their bosses try to make them stick to like a certain set of weeks where it's like, okay, after 12 weeks of therapy, this person should be done in therapy. But like in real life, it doesn't work that way. Like, how are you just going to be done with something after like 12 weeks? And so my therapist did try to extend me beyond that, and she did. And I would go on and off to her. And so it worked that way. Like, I would go to her consistently for like 6 months. And then after that, I'd only go like once every 2 months when I needed to. Check in and kind of decompress and complain about life. So yeah, therapy was definitely, it was better than nothing because therapy is where I first learned about meditation, and meditation was like the only tool I had back then to give me some semblance of a peace of mind. Like, I got a little tiny 15-minute break every time I did my 15-minute meditation, and it was amazing. And I will always and forever rep meditation as something that everyone should try to do whenever they're struggling. It's not necessarily the resolve and solution for everything, because like I think I heard somewhere that depression and meditation don't always mix well. But at least if you have anxiety, meditation does mix well. And it's not like it is a thing that in the moment, while you're doing it, it necessarily makes you feel better, but it cumulatively makes you start waking up with more ease and just not so much stress over little things. Or like, I love it whenever I close my eyes to meditate and at the end of the session I open them. Whenever I open my eyes, that's when I felt like this wash of clarity and calm come over me, because I was finally taking in my environment again, but none of it was nearly as overstimulating as it was at first. Yeah, I would say that going to college, so I'm a first generation college student, which means that my parents did not go to college. Like, people in the previous generation of my family did not go to college. Me and my siblings were like the first one in our family bloodline to do that. And I think that makes a big difference in how confident you are and how stressed you get whenever you go off to college, and your mental health. Because like I said earlier, you feel like the weight of your family is on you, and like you have to do whatever you can to get your family out of poverty. Not saying my family was in poverty, but like I was trying to do what I could to get my family out of the middle class status and hopefully one day become upper middle class. And there was just so much I didn't know. And then also coming from a non-white family, there's just such a lack of education. Like, we don't get as many opportunities passed down to us through our families, especially if you're like an immigrant or something like that. You really don't get anything. You're just on your own, and that alone will make your mental, if you focus on that too much and try to be perfect throughout college, you're just going to crumble. And that's what I did. I crumbled. So I guess part of this is to say that it's okay if you crumble, because you can get back up after that crumbling. Like, in the end, I managed to graduate, got my degree, went through like the hardest, like deepest, darkest depression, post-grad depression ever. But I've come out of it, and I'm so much lighter now and better now. So it's not the end of the world, but it's a toughie. I think I'm going to end this episode here. Sorry, my episodes are so short. I really don't know how to do long podcasts yet. Hopefully these little short podcasts are good enough for now. But yeah, I hope this helps you feel like, I don't know, maybe just not alone in your mental health journey, especially if you're in college right now, or just, you know, you weren't alone whenever you were in college going through this. Like, no matter how put together these kids might have looked like they had it, they were all going to their dorm rooms at night and struggling. They were struggling to sleep. They were struggling with loneliness. They were struggling with pressure. No one really knew exactly what they were doing, and they were changing their mind multiple times over the career path and their major. You're not alone, and I wish the system was designed a little bit better so it could provide some more support, but I think colleges are working on it. I think that's why they have offices for first generation students. It's why they have CAPS. It's why they have just events you can go to that help you out as a freshman. You just really have to take advantage of all of them to try to mitigate all the craziness that can happen when going off for the first time by yourself away from your family to try to be an adult. So anyways, I hope this episode provided some clarity, and I will see you next time. Bye.